All right, we've been joined by Councilmember Parker. We're expecting Councilmembers Fruman and McDuffie to join shortly, and then we should be able to get started.
Hey there, Chairman White.
Councilmember Fruman, good to see you, and for you and Councilmember Parker. We are or about to be live, so FYI. But happy belated birthday, Matt.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Birthday during budget. Mine is during oversight, so I missed some parties too.
Oh no, we had a. Okay, we're live, so I think I'm gonna chit chat about my birthday at a different time.
All right.
All right, council members. So we have now obtained a quorum. Council member, I'm going to recommend that we go ahead and get started. I do anticipate that Councilmember McDuffie may be joining us in the middle of your statement. I see his staff is on, but I want to make sure that we're able to utilize the folks that we have and get through this. So I'm going to get the recording started, and Councilmember, you may begin when you're ready.
Excellent. Good afternoon. I'm Robert White, Council Member at Large and Chair of the Committee on Housing. Today is Wednesday, May 10th, 2023, and we are meeting remotely via Zoom. The time is now 1:19 p.m. and I'm calling to order this additional meeting of the committee. We have a quorum consisting of myself, Ward 5 Council Member Zachary Parker, and Ward 3 Council Member Matt Fruman. Today, we are meeting to discuss proposed resolution 25-72, which would confirm mayoral nominee Colleen Green to the position of Director of the Department of Housing and Community Development, or DHCD. Under district law, this nominating resolution would be automatically deemed approved on May 18th without council action. After reviewing Ms. Green's written materials, hearing testimonies from witnesses, and having further discussions with residents and with Acting Director Green, I support this confirmation. DHCD is one of the district's leading agencies on housing matters and the steward of the district's Housing Production Trust Fund. Colleen Green has worked for DHCD twice, first as Chief of Staff from 2007 to 2009, and now as Acting Director beginning in January of this year. In addition to her work for the agency, Ms. Green has worn various hats throughout development processes. Her past responsibilities include overseeing construction lending transactions at the Bank of America and Key Bank, managing a $60 million portfolio to develop housing along the East Coast, serving as an advisor to small businesses on real estate transactions through her own company, and working on short-term housing projects like shelters and halfway houses while with Core Services Group. In my conversations with Ms. Green, I've come to understand her desire for DHCD to run effectively and for it to best serve the needs of our city. I appreciate the witnesses who took time to share their views on Ms. Green's ability to carry out her vision at this committee's confirmation hearing for Ms. Green in March. Witnesses who have worked directly with Ms. Green highlighted her work ethic and shared their belief that Ms. Green will tackle challenges head-on with determination and creativity. The committee also heard from witnesses concerned about Ms. Green's nomination as a result of their ongoing experiences with DHCD. Several residents from the Northeast Boundary neighborhood in Ward 7 cited issues with the agency's responsiveness and lack of inclusion of communities when making development decisions. Since last fall, neighbors sought to meet with DHCD staff to no avail. The committee takes these concerns seriously. Upon my request, Acting Director Green and I met with Northeast Boundary residents 2 weeks ago to seek a resolution. The issues discussed predate Ms. Green's recent appointment as acting director. However, part of Ms. Green's duties as director will be to ensure DHCD's community engagement is both clear and meaningful. Clarity is critical for communities to understand which agencies to engage at the various steps of development projects. It is also imperative that our agencies like DHCD aren't simply checking boxes, but rather are listening to residents and incorporating their feedback. I was encouraged by Ms. Green's personal attendance at that meeting and openness during the discussion. I am hopeful Ms. Green's straightforward approach will improve DHCD's relationship with communities and foster public trust in the agency's ability to achieve its goals. Lastly, DHCD directors play a critical role in prioritizing how our Housing Production Trust Fund dollars are spent. In a year like this one, where the budget is more limited, it's highly imperative that those dollars be spent with clear goals in mind. I have appreciated Ms. Green's commitment to filling vacant HPTF advisory board seats so the right people are at the table to make those tough decisions. I agree that collaboration among skilled and experienced residents will help determine the best distribution of our dollars. Ms. Green has a big job ahead of her. I've been encouraged by her engagements over the past few months. I've been impressed with her knowledge of issues and desire to solve problems. We will undoubtedly have moments of disagreement, but I have appreciated Ms. Green's collaborative nature thus far and look forward to working together to translate resident concerns into outcome-oriented solutions. I'm happy to support her nomination today. Is there discussion on PR 25-72? Hearing Councilmember Parker.
Thank you, Chair White. And I'm going to just do a sound check. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
I'm seeing head nods. I really appreciated hearing parts of your opening statement. And there are 3 areas of concern that I have with the agency as a whole. And I'm hopeful, should Ms. Green be confirmed, that she can address them. One is with the looming rent increases on rent control properties. As you know, and members of this committee knows, it was of the interest of this committee and several members of the committee to try to do something about that. And unfortunately, DHCD was not a willing partner in stemming the rent increases on rent control properties. Not only was DHCD not a partner, there were times when information was hard to secure. There were times when answers were evasive. And still to this date, DHCD has refused to come to the table to find a solution to ensure that rent doesn't rise nearly 10% on rent control properties across the district. Secondly, as you alluded to, Chair White, the Housing Production Trust Fund annually and routinely continues to miss investments in critical low or deeply affordable housing, if you will, between 0 and 30% AMI. By no means is this the fault of Green, but it is my hope that Ms. Green would have a concrete vision around how we can strengthen the Housing Production Trust Fund and make sure its investments are benefiting residents and the needs of the district where it is needed most. And then lastly, as a ward council member, I can assure you that I've heard from a number of residents that have attempted to apply for the Homeowner Assistance Fund, or HAF, that have had repeated issues, lack of communication, a lack of follow through, a lack of payment. And likewise, I have not seen a vision or heard or received communication around how these things are going to be addressed through DHCD. So again, I appreciate Chair White that you seem to have had a level of communication that I have not benefited from, and you have a level of confidence and I trust your judgment there. But these are lingering concerns for me, and I'm hoping if, again, Ms. Green has confirmed that she can work with our office and this committee to address them. But at this time, I have not seen enough information to warrant approval. And so I would encourage council members on this committee and just in general, not to simply rubber stamp nominees, but actually hold them to addressing the issues that are affecting district residents the most. So that is my statement, and I'm looking forward to the vote. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councilmember Parker. I appreciate you raising those issues and concerns. I think it is important that we do not rubber stamp nominees, particularly as the district heads into a more difficult place. I will say in my experiences, I've had more success working with Acting Director Green than with most other agency directors, even when in places where we have disagreed. I am not happy to hear that you've had difficulty getting information on rent control. I've been able to get information from the agency. I take their lack of work on rent control to be above the head of the director. I think that's the mayor's decision. I think with that respect to the Housing Production Trust Fund, it is a 100% acceptable and important to expect a vision from the agency on how we improve this. This is something we've discussed at some hearings, and I would be happy to work with you and with the agency to get that vision, because we need to know where we are going with respect to Housing Production Trust Fund. We spend a lot of money, and I don't think we see enough affordable housing for it. So we need to understand where that is going. And on responsiveness on HAF, I think the agency is going to have to respond to that because if they are not being responsive to constituents in the council members' offices, that is a problem. So I appreciate you raising those concerns. Councilmember Fruman.
Thank you very much, Chair White. On the rent stabilization, I if that's likely a higher pay grade and a policy decision made by the mayor, and rightly or wrongly, I actually don't hold Acting Director Green responsible for that. There's going to be more to that discussion, I think, and I do think that we need to do a very serious relook at our rent stabilization laws. There's different ideas that are floating out there now, but I think stepping back and trying to address this in a more comprehensive way is going to be an important thing to do. I asked questions of Acting Director Green at the hearing where I thought the answers were contradictory. One, there was not a person who could do one thing, but there were people who could do other things. But I do think that that's a reflection of administration-wide policy. The points about responsiveness on the home purchasing, important that we need to follow everybody. We need that program to work. I think in my conversations with Acting Director Green, it's been a high priority to her that it work, and I hope that that will translate down throughout the whole agency. On the Housing Production Trust Fund, I actually think we're in a place where there are a lot of ideas out there about how do we get more affordable housing? Is it through the Housing Production Trust Fund? To what extent is purchasing land going to be an issue, and doing RFPs in order to get more affordable housing? And my experience with Acting Director Green has been that in the back and forth conversations about that, she's been really an excellent thought partner. And I feel like I learned from her, and I feel like she's been listening to me about issues like that. And so I'm optimistic about the work that she'll do once she is permanently in office. I also want to commend you, Chair White, for the way in which you approached the issue with the neighbors who felt like she had not been responsive. I think that's sort of a signature. I've seen you do that in another setting where there was an issue between an agency head or the head of an organization and some of the people who they serve, and you confronted it directly and privately in one setting and very effectively. And I think I want to commend your leadership in doing that in this setting, and Acting Director Green for participating in it and being responsive. I ultimately intend to vote in support of this nomination and look forward to working closely with Director Green once confirmed. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Councilmember Fruman. Councilmember McDuffie.
Thank you, Chair White. And good afternoon to my colleagues and to you, Chairman. I plan to support this nomination. I had the chance to listen to the committee's March roundtable on Ms. Green's nomination, and what is clear to me is that she's got the knowledge and expertise to lead the department. I think what comes out is the experience both in government as well as just sort of the background in real estate development, construction, lending, finance, and her roots, frankly, as a native of the city. I think it makes her a good candidate for the job. I'll dovetail on what Matt just said, and I didn't get on early enough to hear all your remarks, but I know and have been in settings where you have called things out. But I also want to call out and acknowledge the Ward 7 residents who testified and submitted written testimony that stated that they frankly felt unheard by the department regarding placement of development projects in their ward, and really just the lack of the types of community serving amenities that should be available to them and that agencies should be mindful of when they're making policy decisions. And so I'm hopeful that Ms. Green heard loudly and clearly their concerns and plans to strengthen the department's processes in a way that meaningfully responds both to their concerns and to the folks who have felt unheard and perhaps are not testifying, but have similar concerns about the way that the department has been engaging certain communities. And so I think if approved, I'm going to continue to work with the folks in the agency, with you as chair and my colleagues on the committee, to ensure that the agency is responsive to the needs and concerns of residents across the District of Columbia, regardless of where they live, but also around ensuring that the Housing Production Trust Fund dollars are being spent as required by law. And so I'm going to support her nomination today. I think she's qualified, but obviously, as has been indicated by this committee and the work that's been going on, there's a lot more work left to be done. And I'm looking forward to being able to engage her around doing those things. Thanks.
Thank you very much, Councilmember McDuffie. I recognize, and I would just want to co-sign with what Councilmember McDuffie said. We heard from one community about engagement or lack thereof with the DHCD, but this likely reflects things that other communities are experiencing. I appreciate having been at the meeting with Director Green. She stood in the fire, took a lot of questions, and I think at the end of the meeting, residents felt heard, appreciated that. The most important part, though, are the next steps, that we actually do something with the information that we got, and that is on this committee, and it is on DHCD. So I look forward to working with DHCD, with the Northeast Boundary community, and with other communities that share this issue. So at this point, I move the committee print and report for proposed resolution 25-72, the director of the Department of Housing and Community Development, Colleen Green, confirmation resolution of 2023 with leave for staff to make technical and conforming changes. All those in favor, please indicate by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
All of those against, please indicate by saying no.
No.
We will record Councilmember Parker is voting no. The ayes have it and the motion passes. I want to thank members of the committee. That concludes the business on today's agenda. If anyone listening is interested in connecting with the staff of the Committee on Housing and learning more about how to get involved in our work, please visit robertwhiteatlarge.com and sign up for our newsletter. The business before the committee is concluded. The time is now 1:36 p.m. and this additional meeting of the Committee on Housing is adjourned. Thanks
Thank you.
again, folks.